Okay, welcome to a new series in tutorials called Web Page Design. This is following up on the series from CSS and XHTML that we did earlier, and we'll be integrating some of the stuff that we did in those courses, in those tutorials, with the new information. Alright, so you'll see here that I am linked to griffith.css, although you can name yours anything. I also have this DTD stuff up at the top, basically explaining what version of HTML and stuff that I'm using. I have a nav section here, which will appear like this, and I have an unordered list, and I also have a footer. Alright, my griffith.css file looks like this. I have body stuff, H1, H2, a paragraph, an unordered list style, and then styles for these IDs and classes, nav, footer, company, and wrapper. Alright, and so if we look back at the page here, it's a basic page. It doesn't look bad. It's just very simple. And what we're going to start doing is looking at graphic elements, visual elements and stuff that we can add to it. For example, some kind of separation for the bottom part of the page here. Alright, so in order to get that, I'm going to go up to my index file, and I want to put inside the div, because if I put a line outside of the div, it's going to go from side to side, and I kind of want it to match up with these edges. In fact, let me go ahead and put one outside the div and give you an idea. If I put HR/, what that does is it says I want a horizontal line, and so if I go back and refresh, I have this horizontal line, and again it goes most of the way across the page here. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to cut that and paste it on this side of my div, which is a wrapper, and you can see a previous tutorial for that. And then I refresh, and so now you can see that I have my nice horizontal line in between here. Now there are other ways of doing horizontal lines and extra page decorations, and we're going to cover some of that. Alright, one thing I want to add here is I want to do some padding around the edge of my title bar here, and I would like to do some little decoration on these two tags, on these two H2 bars. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go into my CSS file, and under my H1 tag I'm going to add an extra element called padding, and I'll just say something like 12 pixels. Alright, and I'll end it with a semicolon. You end all these elements with a semicolon. So I'll save, and then go back and refresh. And you can see that I've got this nice padding around the box now. Alright, so I'm going to go back here, and in my H2 tag, or element, I'm going to add some decoration. So for example, I want to put a border, but I just want it on the bottom. Well, let's tell it we want 2 pixels, dashed, and then maybe color 191970, and then a semicolon. Alright, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back and refresh. So you can see that this added some nice decoration here. Alright, so I'm going to go back to our HTML code, and I'm going to take out this HR because I want to do it with a CS tag or element. Let me go back and refresh and make sure that it goes away. It is gone. Alright, and now I'm going to go back into my CSS here, and you see I have a footer element style sheet. So I'm going to go in here and add an extra little bit of code that says border top thin solid number AEAED4 semicolon. Alright, and if I just go ahead and save this and refresh, you'll see that I've got this nice bar here. Alright, so I'm going to go back now into my footer, and I want to add an extra thing that says padding top 10 pixels. Alright, now save that. If I go back, this should give us a little bit of padding, so I'm going to refresh, and you see that it's a nice space. Alright, so again, you may want to put all of this extra stuff down here at the bottom up inside your div. So for example, if I was to take this footer stuff here cut it and paste it inside the div, it should appear pretty much the same, except this line will be shorter. Alright, so you can see that that works pretty well. And sometimes just adding a little style element will help a lot. Okay, and finally, for this introduction to visual elements, I want to talk about the different ways that a page can be seen in different browsers. Internet Explorer is pretty common, but if you're looking at an older version of Internet Explorer or a version of Internet Explorer on the Mac versus the PC, or things like that, they can look very different. Alright, and the other thing is, if you go over here to, this is a new browser called Chrome from Google, and then this is Firefox, and you'll see that if you go from Firefox to Chrome to Internet Explorer, things will look slightly different. In some cases, if you're using more complex codes, they'll look a lot more different than this. There are some codes, for example, where you're doing different types of borders. Whether it's an inset or outset, or a double border or a ridged border. Even dashed and dotted borders can look different from browser to browser. So you'll see these larger spaces are in here. This is on Chrome, and there's larger spaces in here, and that is on Firefox. But if you go to Internet Explorer, the spaces are very small. Alright, and so if I was to go back into my code here and see if I can find my dashed code and change that to dotted, we'll save this and preview it on Internet Explorer. Alright, and I will go and check that out on Chrome and on Firefox. So you'll see that the dotted looks fairly similar. The dashed was very different. If we were to do this one, something like inset, what that does is it gives the appearance of a 3D type of look. Alright, at least it should. Oh, that's because I have it set for 2 pixels. So I'm going to go back here and refresh, and you see how it's a lighter border here and a darker border on the top. Let's try this one and this one. So now see how, this is what I mean with things can look different. This is Firefox versus Internet Explorer, that's blue and black, versus Google Chrome, which is also blue and black. So those are very different looks. Alright, so hopefully that will give you a little bit of an idea of how the visual elements are different and how the different browsers will see the page slightly different. And there are sometimes your page will not display at all, so you'll have to figure out what's causing it to not display on a certain browser. I have a lot of problems with the Safari browser on Macintosh, for example. So give those things a test, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.